Good Wednesday morning, friends, or afternoon, or evening, or middle of the night, or whenever you happen to be joining me. For those that I don't know, I'm Reverend Jennifer Finley, our Momentum and Discipleship Pastor here at First United Methodist Church. And if things look a little bit different, for those of you who regularly join us, I have a new phone and I'm learning some new tech this morning. So apologies if it looks a little bit different or if it's a little bit wonky this morning. This is our midweek time to simply take a deep breath together, to share together in our faith, to wonder together about where God is meeting us in the midst of all that swirls in our world and our lives. And I've loved asking that question each and every week for myself and together with you. Now this morning, I have my cup of coffee still. Others of you may not have coffee this morning, or you may have tea, or you may have moved on from your morning routines, or you may simply be doing this at a different time of day. Wherever you are, I'm so glad that you are joining. As I was asking myself that question, where has God met me recently in these last couple of weeks? The answer to that for me came in a conversation with a friend who mentioned to me she saw a collection of cups I had in my office. Now, I have a tendency to collect cups at home and in my office, but she noticed one that I have in my office that's a broken cup that I had repaired and still has a crack in it that simply sits in my office as a reminder to me of God's presence. And she was asking me about that cup, and she said, "Oh, I have a book that you might like, a book recommendation." Now, those that know me well know that one of the things I love more than even coffee is good books. And so I jumped on that and I ordered myself a copy, and it has been a blessing as I've dove into it. And so I thought I would share some of that with you. This is called The Cup of Our Life, A Guide to Spiritual Growth, and it's by Joyce Roop. Now, we've talked about Joyce before here in this space. She is the author of several different books on spirituality, one called Praying Our Goodbyes that I have found personally helpful over time in many different situations, and have shared some of that with you in our times together. This one caught my attention because she uses the idea of a cup as a metaphor, as a guide to how we think about God's presence with us and in our lives. And for the next several weeks, I invite you on that journey with me as I journey together with some of her words. I was intrigued by this because she starts by acknowledging that over time, the image of a cup has become important to her. She says, "I remember vividly the day I first began pondering the cup as a symbol of my inner journey. It happened on a Wednesday morning as I sat down for a regularly scheduled midweek prayer time. On that particular morning, Norm had asked Dick and me to bring our empty coffee mugs to prayer. As we settled in, Norm invited us to hold our cups, to look into them, and to think about our spiritual lives. At that moment, the symbolism of the cup awakened in me the deeper part of myself. What happened was amazing. I had no sooner looked into the empty cup when tears began forming in my eyes. What was this all about? Why this great surge of sadness? Where did this deep emotion come from? As I struggled with my tears and continued looking into the empty cup, I discovered that I was feeling much more spiritually drained than I realized. Looking into the empty cup was like looking into my hollow self. Since that time, I have found the cup to be a powerful teacher for my inner life. The ordinariness of the cup reminds me that my personal transformation occurs in the common crevices of each day." I loved that image that God does ordinary, holy things with ordinary things. And sometimes we need reminders that in the ordinary crevices of life, God shows up. And so she goes on to talk about the multiple ways in which a cup has been a symbol for her over time. And she invites us on this journey with her. And so she first invites us to pick a cup. Before we begin, to pick an ordinary cup, She says, thoughtfully decide on a cup that you will use for your dearly, or in our case, weekly, spiritual time together. Bless the cup with the following words. Now, I got stuck there, I will fully admit, because she suggests that we choose an ordinary cup. Now, I'm a collector of coffee cups and they all have meaning for me. So I thought, what do I choose? Do I choose the one that a dear friend gave me during COVID that reminded me that I wasn't alone? Do I pick the one that reminds me of the times I've run a half marathon and done harder things than I thought I could do? Or do I pick the one from a state park in Missouri that reminds me of the time I took a camping vacation and had an amazing time? Or do I pick the one that is a Starbucks cup from St. Louis, but reminds me of the dear friend that gave it to me at a time when I was leaving St. Louis and wasn't sure what was ahead? All of them had associations, and I wasn't sure if any of them would be right. But then I landed on this one, completely ordinary, and in this case, dirty, coffee cup. I actually bought this one in Puerto Rico a few years ago when we took a mission trip there. It was not made in Puerto Rico. I am sure it was made someplace else. I picked it up at a grocery store because I wanted a reusable cup that I could hold in my hands. And so I landed on this cup. Now, if you are joining me in the morning, or if you are someplace where you have access to cups, I invite you to simply maybe pick one up or to mull over what one you might choose. And maybe take this video recording at some other time. Pick up that cup and hear these words of blessing for the cup. Bestower of life, abundant love, trusted companion, eternal wisdom. We pray your blessing upon these cups and upon ourselves. May these be sacred vessels as we pray with them each day. May this cup become my teacher, helping me to find my way to you, O Lord. May this cup hold many messages of your wisdom and your comfort and your love. May this cup connect me with life and create in me a generous heart. May this cup draw me ever closer into your loving oneness with you, O Lord. I love that. God doing holy things with ordinary things. And then she suggests some beautiful words for us to remember. That a cup is a simple container that has spoken in my solitude, a teacher and bringer of wisdom, whispering truths of indwelling God in the container of my soul, hearkening to my hidden ability to be filled and to pour from a life of abundance, reminding me of necessary boundaries for nurturing the sacred space within me, inviting me to sip often from the divine wellspring source that slacks my spiritual thirst, calling me to be like a seed in the soil, believe in the power that is present in the life that is possible. And what I love each week about this meditation is it's not simply beautiful words of poetry, it is a practice. And so she invites us to take a cup, whatever it is, whichever one you have chosen, and to hold it in your hands, to sense God's presence with you. To hold it in your hands, to notice its shape and style and color and size. Remembering that many coffee and teacups have a special shape and size, a personality, so to speak, just as every human person does. To remember that we were created by God in our own unique shapes and sizes and personalities. And as you hold the cup, be conscious of yourself held in God's hand. Accept your uniqueness and your goodness. Thank God for creating you as you are. Friends, I know that sometimes that's easier and sometimes that's harder to accept. But I invite you to hold a cup, whatever it is, and to imagine yourself being held and cradled in the palm of God's hand. And then hear these words from Isaiah, chapter 43. I have called you by name, you are mine. You are precious in my sight, and I honor and I love you. And then as she ends this meditation, she invites us into this question for thought and reflection. When I think about God loving me unconditionally as I am, and I fill in the blank. I wonder what that fill in the blank for you is. I know for me, sometimes that fill in the blank is I am joyful. But I know other times that fill in the blank is when I think about God loving me unconditionally as I am. That is hard to believe, or I don't understand, or I struggle with that. Friends, if that's you, perhaps simply holding the cup can remind us that we are held in God's love and God's presence. So my prayer for us, my hope for us, is that as we do our ordinary things of life, today, tomorrow, and the next day, that we find God moving into the crevices and reminding us that we are indeed beloved by God. And my invitation is that when you join me next week, bring a cup with you. Any kind of cup will do. Maybe think about it and pray about it. Pick one up, because we know that God truly does holy things with ordinary things in our lives. Go in peace, my friends. Amen.